Well, there you go. Time to kick off the show. So, group stage is over. We've had predictable results, we've had shock results, and we had Germany going out as well. We had everything. We had loads. Let's get on with the show straight away. We do not have a World Cup intro, but we do have plenty of material to discuss and a small panel to do it with. Welcome, Abdi. How's it going?
Not too bad, mate. Not too bad. Not a lot to talk about, really. When's the last time we done a show? It's been a while. Not a lot has
Been a
happened
while.
since then. Apparently Ronaldo got fired. Man United's up for sale. What else? Oh, there's a small tournament going on in the Middle East at the moment called the World Cup. So
And between
yeah.
now, there's been a World Cup third round draw. What else could you ask for?
Oh, and the Juventus board quit apparently as well. So
Oh yeah,
they might
oh
be
yeah.
yeah.
To be honest, that one did actually pass me by briefly. I saw the notification, I just ignored it. And went, oh yeah, hang on, that's
Yeah.
actually quite a major story.
A lot has happened. A lot has
Yes,
happened.
a lot has
It's been
happened, but
busy.
yes, we're back to review the group stage. We'll talk about the groups, and we will preview the last 16 ties. Oh yes, and
Which is
briefly,
straight tomorrow.
it's straight on. There's no, there's no
No
stopping. There's
breaks.
no breathing space. No, not
No.
at all. So yes, welcome Abdi and welcome Matt.
Hello. Yeah, like everyone's just saying, it's been a long couple of weeks, hasn't it? I mean, we haven't had a good show in a while when all of a sudden all the good news stories come out all at once. It's very interesting at the moment, let's say that. But I'm looking forward to this one.
Yes, I mean we can't talk United as much as we would like to.
Unfortunately, not. It'll be something down the line. Don't worry.
We United will be talked about. That's for sure. It's not a story we can miss out at a later stage. Certainly, when the Premier League coverage returns, we will have to touch on gently touch on baby Ronaldo's outburst. Right there. And of course, he had to Piers Morgan, didn't it? Right. Anyway, enough because we could be here for a while. Let's talk the group stage. So, yeah, fairly busy, fairly few of its own shocks and predictabilities. Let's kick off, though. We'll start with Group A. So, we'll tell you the final standings of Group A. You've got Netherlands on 7 points, Senegal on 6 points, Ecuador on 4 points, and our great host nation, Qatar, on nil points, scored 1, conceded 7. Abdi, I mean, not much really was expected of Qatar. They put on this great World Cup, then they got the first team to be dumped out of it. What's not much to say really on the Qataris, more the other 3 teams, isn't it?
So, when we done the preview show, me and Matt said Qatar as dark horses. I don't know what we were thinking at the time, but we were like, oh yeah, maybe, because I did actually think Qatar might put up more of a fight than they did. But yeah, they weren't good. They really weren't good. Like if you asked me to do a prediction the way that it would have gone before, it would have probably been similar. Maybe I would have had Ecuador over Senegal, Ecuador. There, I feel like they were similar enough to where it could go either way. But everyone and then now probably had Netherlands coming out on top in that group, and don't think it's much of a surprise. The Netherlands have been okay. I don't think it was the most difficult of groups. They got past Qatar, but who didn't? The Ecuador game, I think that one was where they drew, and they managed to beat Senegal very late on, to be fair. So I don't know. Netherlands haven't really been convincing in terms of what they've been doing, but at the same time, Cody Gakpo announced himself to the world stage with 3 goals in 3 games. So hopefully that could be someone we are looking at in January for United. But it ultimately was going to come down to between Senegal and Ecuador who's going to take that second spot, and it was a straight shootout between the two on match day 3 when Senegal beat them 2-1. I don't know like Ecuador. Enner Valencia, where did he come from?
I was going to say was a surprise.
He got injured in the first game, and then he was like, oh yeah, he scored 2, and then afterwards he was injured. for the second game. I was like, oh, he's back. He's right. Okay, cool. And then he scored again, and then got injured again. And then I was like, oh yeah, that's it. He's done. He's not coming back. And then he was just in the starting lineup randomly on flipping Monday or whenever it was. So I don't know what they're doing there, but Ecuador did have a very good team. I'd say it's basically Brighton because quite a few of them play for Brighton. But yeah, Senegal, fair play. African nation getting through. Like to see that. Koulibaly was the one to win it for them in the end, but yeah, we'll see there because we have to face them in the round 16 now. So yeah, should be good. Should be good.
Yeah, I think when I look at Group A, you kind of look at it when it comes to Netherlands. Like you said, they haven't blown me away. To be honest, they've done well. They've done well, but well compared to the teams they've had in the group. I think I had them to get out of the group anyway. I did have them to qualify first. Senegal, to be honest, they have actually quite impressed me because I wasn't sure how well they'll do without Mane, but obviously they are the AFCON champions, so you had to give them some credit that even without Mane, they were probably going to do something. Ecuador did impress me as well, to be fair. Both of these teams, I'm not surprised it went to a shootout between them two at the end because they were the best, the closest teams out of that group that had a similar level of a similar progress, really. So I felt bad for Ecuador, but at the end of the day, Senegal did what they had to do, and they got through to face England, as we'll go through the group in a bit and predict the last 16. Qatar, I mean, not much really. I didn't expect.
Not much to say.
Not much you can say really. I didn't expect much from.
I'm glad they did get a goal though. Like
I'm glad they got a goal, but they're still probably one of the worst, if not the worst, host nation in terms of footballing.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Footballing records, taking the moral stuff aside, the footballing wise, I mean, they've not covered themselves in glory, and there have been bad host nations, but yeah, they've certainly put their name up there. Matt, your thoughts on Group A, and also if anyone's watching, feel free to let us know what you think about the groups as we discuss them and predict the last 16, of course.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Is that you look at these groups and go, almost you can pick out certain teams, as Abdi said, as you've also said, is that the Netherlands were going to be favourites to top that group. It's a bit of a mixed bag, isn't it? That Netherlands team, isn't it? Because you've got a team that's some haven't qualified, some of them have qualified for major tournaments before. They only just about made it out their European group championship group last time out. But as Abdi mentioned, Cody Gakpo has announced himself on the world stage, but he has also been those that know him very well from your video games, Football Manager, and things like that. Now that winter update's going to add an extra 10 to 20 million onto a very good player. And if I'm honest, this group, it was almost in the bag for the Netherlands, and then it was always going to be a toss-up between all three nations. Yes, I did back them as dark horses, but when you don't qualify for your own out of your group stage, it's kind of were you that good enough to be in that last 16, or were you just really bad? And Qatar was just really bad. I always look back on the South Africa team in 2010. They were a really good side. They just missed out because Mexico, if I remember rightly, Mexico beat them in the opening match. Had it been, no, they didn't. They lost.
It was a 1-1 draw.
Yeah, so that was it. I think it was only a point or something like that. That in the end, that point made it up. Had South Africa won one of those games, had they won the opening game, they would have gone through. They wouldn't have gotten that far, but it would have been huge for African football. But between Ecuador and Senegal, Ecuador are very up and down, aren't they? You see, sometimes they have great teams, some great players, and sometimes it just doesn't click. At other times, just one player steps up and scores the goals. And this time, it happened. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough, and Senegal ended up going through. And you have to say fair play to Senegal. They come in. People have asked questions about them as well. Who's going to be scoring those goals? And the answer has been that all of them will be, and that's been good to see. A huge thing as well for Mendy to be, considering he's now the number 2 at Chelsea, to be actually stepping up now as the national goalkeeper and putting on good displays. Same as Koulibaly. There's some other Senegal goal players there that have really shined, and maybe you might see them get that move either in the summer or winter or January window coming up soon.
Yes, so yeah, there we go. There's Group A. It's definitely players putting their name out there. Let's move on to Group B, shall we? So let me take you through it. You've got England, scored 9, conceded 2.7. Got USA, scored 2, conceded 1, 5 points. You've got Iran, scored 4, conceded 7 and on 3 points. And you got the Valleys. Scored 1, conceded 6.1. Okay, so England topping the group. Abdi, I think there was. I think I had a good rant on WhatsApp about this during the Wales game. I think there's a lot of England fans that basically flip-flopped multiple times in this group, even though to me, let's be honest, there was no doubt to me that England were going to qualify from that group one way or another.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. It's the same thing every tournament, mate. You'll get the negativity heading into the tournament, and then afterwards England start off nicely, and then afterwards they're gonna be, oh yes, let's go. And then afterwards, one little result or one poor game where it's not that great, everyone's like, oh wait, shit, we're not doing this, we're not getting out of the group, this, that. And then afterwards the Wales game comes around, and then everyone's back flipping dancing around again. It's some England fans are bipolar, basically, essentially. I surprisingly, from if you remember from the Euros, I said we were toast, but this time from the preview, I've actually went with a very positive mindset with England. I just said, let's go out there, enjoy it. I think we'll do well. I think we can go deep, and I think we have a big opportunity to do that. The Iran game, a good opening game, good way to sort of get off the mark, confidence booster. Loads of people on the score sheet. Bellingham showed his name on the world stage as well. He's been doing it for Dortmund, but now more eyes can see him doing it as well, and I feel like more English fans can see him doing it as well in terms of, because he does it in Germany in the Champions League, but not everyone does watch that. So I don't know why you wouldn't watch the Champions League, but other people got stuff going on.
Order.
And then Sterling, Bukayo Saka getting in there, getting 2 for himself. You love to see it, especially after what happened with the Euros. And then Marcus Rashford comes on, scores one of the fastest goals off the bench, 49 seconds. And then Jackie Grealish gets in there. So, yeah, there were some contentious decisions in that game with the penalties and consistency, but that's going to be the thing that continues all the time. We're going to keep discussing
this entire group stage.
Unfortunately, yeah, it has, and it's frustrating, but it is what it is at the end of the day. Then the USA game, not a lot to say. A lot of hype went into that one, but I just think England didn't really go in for the kill, and USA were probably the better side and probably deserved more out of that game than they got. And then the Wales game wrapped it up with sending them packing with the tails between their legs. Marcus Rashford, lovely free kick. Probably keeper should have saved it. 2 for Rashford in that game. You love to see it. 3 goals for him in the competition so far. He's up there with the top scorers at the moment. Hopefully, he can keep that form going on. Phil Foden got in there as well. A lot of people were saying get Foden on after the USA game, and he didn't make it off the bench. So a lot of people were like, yeah, get him on, get him on. But yeah, from the group stages, what I've seen so far, I'm happy with. There'll always be that concern with England in terms of when they come up against the bigger side. But for some reason in tournaments, we just do the business because our form was horrendous coming into this. But when it comes to World Cups, Euros, our form recently has been up there, and hopefully we can go one step further this year and actually bring it home. Speaking of the next teams in there, USA. I actually rate USA's team in terms of the way they play, the way they press. They're very high energy, but they're showing themselves really. A lot of people wasn't too sure how they'll do, but I had a feeling they'd be okay. But I don't know. I don't know how far they'll go. I think they might have a good chance against Netherlands because Netherlands haven't really been convincing as well. But we'll see tomorrow, basically. But yeah, from what I've seen from USA, I like what I've been seeing. They've been a good side. They've been fun to watch. They just can't score, though. That's their only issue at the moment. They just can't score. So if they had someone clinical, maybe this might be a competition 4 years too early because they are hosting it in 2026 with Mexico and Canada. Maybe they'll be more mature and have more know-how. But to be fair, this is a very good step so far for them. Coming back, they haven't been in the World Cup since 2014. So yeah, Iran and Wales. Iran, they got slapped up in the first game. I don't know why, what reason. They're actually not that bad, but and then they beat Wales in very late on. Wayne Hennessy went out and probably was on the Henny at that point. I don't know what he was thinking in that game. And then the USA game, they just couldn't get past USA. And it was just a toss up between which one of them will go through. And then we come to Wales. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Wales,
Bit of a
Wales,
leaky
Wales.
defense there from Wales.
Yeah. They made it to the World Cup and they were quickly out as quick as it took them to get here. It took them longer actually. I don't really have too much to say on Wales. It is what it is, I guess. At the end of the day, of Wales, you'd hope they'd do better, but nah, they just couldn't. Yeah, Iran was the one where you probably thought they could get a result, but no. And they're now packing their bags and watching England on Sunday. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, looking at that group, let's be honest, England, the Iran game was unexpected result in the sense that I didn't think it would be 6 goals and that they'll even concede 2. USA, I think what really got on my nerves during the England USA game is people were basically moaning about how bad England were, and a lot of the England fans seem to have forgotten to credit USA because they were actually a decent team and they played quite well, but yet
they should have scored a couple times in that game.
Seems like everyone could not possibly bring themselves to actually compliment USA when they deserve the compliments. Iran, I mean, they beat Wales. To me, you don't really need to do anything else in the World Cup. That game against Iran and Wales was that one game where I actually put money for Iran to win. And boy, did they deliver. And did Wales basically absolutely flop. Everyone had so much hope for them. Now, I probably thought they could do a bit better than that. I thought they could at least get maybe 2 points, which still wouldn't have qualified them. But hey ho. But no, that the one game they needed to win, which was the Iran game, because let's face it, if they won the game against England, they might have still needed other results. But that was ridiculous. Their campaign was terrible. Fair play for getting to the World Cup and giving the fans the experience for the first time in 64 years, I think it was, or 50, 64.
Yeah, about that.
Yeah,
59-58.
well done, Wales, but you did not deliver on the stage where it really mattered.
See you in the next 64 years.
See you in another, because at the end of the day, is that it for the current Belgium generation? Belgium, we'll talk to them
I will
later.
go on to them soon.
Wales generation. You've got Gareth Bale, who probably is going to be his last World Cup. Let's be honest. You've got, yeah. I don't see Wales. I don't see Wales really progressing much with this current generation, but could be wrong. I could be wrong. Matt, any thoughts on Group B that have not been mentioned?
We'll be here all night if I do. I think I'll start in reverse order. Just in the preview, I did mention that I didn't think Wales deserved to be there during the playoffs. They ended up playing Scotland. Scotland were the better team, but Wales beat Scotland by the 1 goal. Then Ukraine played Scotland, and I thought Scotland actually did really well. It was just a case of Ukraine scored the goal in the end, and then whoever won that game went on to play Wales, which personally I didn't agree with, because Wales are not really deserving to have been there in the first place. They weren't a good side. They rely too much on certain players, and I said it from the start. He was going to be there, probably scouting for golf courses more than anything else, and he was. He literally only did one thing in that World Cup, and that was score Wales' first goal in the World Cup for a long time, and then he just basically went out, walked out, and just said, "Right, okay, I'm going to grab my golf clubs now, and I'm just going to go and find a nice golf course over in somewhere else, and not bother turning up for the rest of the tournament." And with these games, with these certain players, they need to turn up, and it's not just Wales. It's as a whole, that team needs to turn up. Wayne Hennessy going out barging the Iranian forward and getting sent off, that's not going to help you out. Then again, when you're top choice for Crystal Palace and you're Welsh, that doesn't really help as well. And then Danny Ward, who's almost as flip-floppy as Lucas Fabianski, comes in for the England game, and he's not helping you after you've held England out for the first half. It's just, you look at Wales and go, right, okay, you may say that's a journey, but the journey's not taking you anywhere. Half of that squad is over 30. I think it's only Connor Roberts and a few others. Nico Williams, I think it's most. Actually, I do think it's most of the defenders Daniel James. There's a few in there that are youngsters that will probably get a few more chances, but the rest of them, that was it. That was their chance.
Probably at some point.
They didn't take them. Iran, I did say that Iran did have a good World Cup last time, so I was expecting something similar. They nearly got out of this group. All they needed to do was get something against the US, preferably a win, and they would have been through.
Yeah, they would have 6 points.
It didn't happen for them, but fair play to the US. The US have turned up, and they did it against England, and they showed everyone in the world how to get at England, even though they didn't score. That's now Senegal looking at that now and going, right, okay, this is how we attack England. If they're going to have Luke Shaw continuously be on that left back role, this is how we get at him. That's that side that's going to be the issue. So, and I will talk about more about England later on. But fair play to the US, they got through. As Abdi brightly pointed out, that this was almost a learning curve for them. I did point that out as well. It's to test them, how far can they go. A lot of them, this is their first experience of a World Cup, so it's important for them to get that milestone over and done with. Now they can enjoy being the host of their next tournament and go, right, we've got the experience. Let's see how far we can go in this tournament and progress from there. That's the idea. It's going to be the same with the other hosts that we'll probably talk about in their groups. Just England. What can I say? Okay, you open up your account scoring 6 goals, and then conceding 2. I don't want to say. I will say it. Sloppy goals. I'm
First
flipping
one was, second one wasn't.
50-50 with the penalty. You don't know what you're going to get with a penalty. It's a lottery, isn't it? Whether or not you guess it right or not. But it's just sloppy play, and it just felt like that kind of carried on into the US game. Okay, Saka had a good chance to actually try and score in that game, but he just hit it over the top of the ball, so it went well over the stadium, the goal. But in the end, a point was a point. If I'm being honest, I think even in the group chat we were all like nearly pulling our hair out, going, "What the hell's going on here?" Because it was just being terrible. And then to put in a sideline to swap everyone around and say, "Yes, Phil Foden's definitely playing. Yes, I'm but I'm taking out." I can't remember who played in that middle for England in that second game, but I'm bringing in Mason Mount. Okay, thank you for reminding me, because I'll talk about that in a minute. And then bringing in Jordan Henderson, who literally does nothing but pass the ball sideways and backwards. I know you're all laughing, but Jesus, this guy makes a living off playing backwards and sideways balls, and that's it. And then trying to be a dictator and free kicks and say this, that, and the other, like he did against Panama, and it didn't amount to anything because the ball blasted over. If that's his contribution, I hate it if this goes to a penalty shootout, because he's going to miss again. But Mason Mount, funny enough, I found a video on TIFO, who are also run by The Athletic, about Mason Mount, and they were saying that Mason Mount is very adaptable to where he plays, but if you ask for where his best position is, it does look like it is central. So when you go and think about that, if you were to have a almost 4-2-3-1 formation, it would probably be Foden on one side, then perhaps Rashford or Saka, Kane at top, and then you'd probably have Mount in the middle, because Mount would be able to do a bit of more of the adaptability, and then it's up to whoever. Declan Rice is definitely your main defensive midfielder, but who's going to partner him? Personally, get rid of Jordan Henderson, put him on a fight next time, and say goodbye. While we're talking about England, I don't know what's happened with Ben White, but hopefully he's all right and everything. As far as we know, it's a personal issue. We don't know exactly what's happened with that. I don't think it will actually come out yet. I think he's just going to need some time off if that is the case. But we face Senegal, and it's going to be an interesting game. That's for sure.
It will be indeed. Right. Moving on to the next group, Group C, and that one was chaotic. The best way to describe this group is permutations palaver, I'd say, but we'll get into it. So, number 1, Argentina scored 5, conceded 2, 6 points. 2, Poland scored scored 2, conceded 2, got 4 points, and 5 yellow cards. 3, Mexico scored 2, conceded 2, 4 points. A few more yellow cards than Poland.
No, scored 2, conceded 3, -1. You went for a goal difference.
Oh yeah. Saudi Arabia.
Unfortunately.
Well, yeah. Scored 3, conceded 5, 3 points. So, we'll start with you, Abdi. What's your thoughts on the Manic? That was the Group C.
It was the most. I loved it. It was just everything that you needed. Start off with that opening game from Group C, Saudi Arabia v Argentina. What a game that was! And you can't really say that was a fluke, because Saudi Arabia fully deserved that win. I think Messi had a penalty. I can't remember who scored the second one. Oh no, wait, no, they only scored one. Yeah, Messi had the penalty. They scored a few times, a couple offsides, very tight calls, very tight call, one of them. And then Saudi Arabia came back in the second half. They had a big halftime team talk that cheered them up, and got them going. And they came out flying in the second half. Got 2 goals. Argentina was stunned, and everything was flipped on his head. The World Cup literally was just shook. Everything. I think that's probably the biggest shock upset in World Cup history, probably. And then afterwards, you had Poland, Mexico. Nothing to say on that game. Very boring.
Apart from that
Ended
embarrassing miss
0-0.
from Lewandowski.
Oh yeah. But credit to Ochoa. He's the World Cup legend. And then afterwards, Saudi Arabia, Poland. Saudi Arabia were the much better team in this one, but Poland just were clinical and they took their chances. And this is kind of where Saudi Arabia could have taken the chance to gone through, but it's disappointing. And then the Argentina Mexico game, it was all on Argentina to sort themselves out because they were on their way for an early exit, and then Mexico didn't really offer anything in this game either. Just like the Poland game, and Argentina won this one. And the last game where everything was on the line in terms of who was going through, Argentina could still go out at that point. Everyone could still go through at that point. It was Mexico, Saudi Arabia. Mexico, they turned up for this game. This is the only game they actually turned up for this whole World Cup, and it was against Saudi Arabia. They got the 2 goals. Chavez, what a free kick! Probably goal of the tournament at this point. 30 yards out or something, just slaps it into the top corner. And then the Poland game and Argentina. What did I finish at? 2-0.
Mm-hmm.
Poland squeaked through. It was looking like Mexico might get through, but it just wasn't enough. And at the end of the day, Poland have got a date with France. Mexico and Saudi Arabia going home, and Argentina squeaked to the top of the group. So at the end, I think it sorted itself out in terms of where everybody thought people would be, but it didn't go the way people would think it would, the road to get to that destination.
Yeah, I mean, very true. I mean, looking at this group, the Argentina Saudi Arabia game, I have to say it was one of these things where I couldn't quite believe what was happening. Mainly because during the game, I was actually in a basement of a exhibition where we had a work function, and literally they put us in the basement meeting conference room, and there was no signal, no Wi-Fi, no nothing.
Yeah.
I would get intermittent notifications, and one of them was when two of them was when the Saudi Arabia goals, and then it was just unbelievable. I kind of said to people in the conference room, "Oh, look, Saudi Arabia are beating Argentina," and everyone just thought I was taking the piss. But no, Saudi Arabia did a fantastic achievement there. And they deserve to go through alone on that one. To be honest, I would have had them go through on that one. They deserve give them the World Cup for knocking back Argentina a little bit. It was beautiful. It was perfect. Poland, Mexico, boring game. That miss from Lewandowski was terrible, but hey ho. Poland, Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia were tough opponents, and
they deserved more. They deserved so much more.
Unlucky to lose that game because they played very well. Unfortunately, Poland took their chances, and that's what happened. Argentina, Mexico. The first half of that game was probably one of the most boring halves of football I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Mind you, as we'll go into later, the Costa Rica Japan game has its own share of that one. And then, Argentina did what they had to do. Then Wednesday came, and that's when the permutations palaver came through. At one point, I literally wondered if Poland and Mexico will go to a who makes better beer contest as to who will go through to the next stage. But the Poland just about done it on goal difference. Although I did feel sorry for Mexico. They turned up, the only game they turned up for, and they got dumped out by such a small margin. It's unbelievable. But hey, Poland and Argentina go through. It was a crazy group, but hey, that's what it ended up quite predictable at the end. Matt.
Yeah, just it's an odd one really, because usually sometimes when you go on to win the World Cup, it is you lose that first game and then you just build on it from there. To be honest, I there's something about this Argentina team where you look at it and go, I don't think they're good enough, but at the same time, because of how they've landed themselves there, they are perhaps in the best place possible. They're in the right side of the draw, to be honest, because
They are.
they've got one of the best chances really to go through. I think it's going to be between them. It could be potentially between them and Brazil in the semi-final.
Yeah.
That's how they've basically. I don't know if they've done it on purpose or it's just how the way it's works out, but it's worked out well for them. Poland as well. Poland seemed to be, I think we've already said bipolar, but when it comes to tournaments, Lewandowski doesn't really turn up. He's finally gone and scored his first tournament goal, and
In the
they,
World Cup.
yeah, at the World Cup, but it's too little, too late, really, because they've now got
France.
France in the next. Who would you have rather faced, Australia or France? And to be honest, I'd have probably rather have faced Australia than France, to be honest. But it is what it is. But Mexico have had the harshest dealt blow to them. It means that you can't afford to waste opportunities, not just in front of goal, but for any of these games. You cannot afford to lose. You cannot afford to go for the 0-0. You have to go for it. It's literally all or nothing on the line. And because Saudi Arabia were able to get that counter attack and they took that away from them, and Mexico was within a very thin line. It just needed Poland to lose and get another goal, and it would have been back to square one again. It would have been a cost of a time, because Poland would have gone through on fair play, which again has brought a lot of questions up. But fair play to Saudi Arabia. They weren't pushovers in this group. They were ones that were pushing the teams towards the full 90 minutes plus the 10, plus whatever added time that they got, and it ended a really good group. And I think if you were to call which group was the most entertaining, I know we've had some really good groups. I think that's probably been one of the most entertaining, although with the 0-0s and things like that, perhaps not as entertaining as others. Maybe be like if you're to give it a grade system, probably be a D out of for entertainment value.
Right, there we go. Right, let's move on to the next group then, shall we? Group D. France, 6 scored, 3 goals.
3 goals conceded.
3 goals conceded,
6
6
points.
points. Top the group. Then you got Australia, mate. 3 games, scored 2, conceded 4. Also
6 points as well.
6 points as well. Then you've got Tunisia third, just slightly unexpected. And the bottom of the group,
feel bad for them as well.
You've got the European semi-finalists from last year, Denmark. Abdi, your thoughts on Group D?
Group D, I'm going to whiz through this one. France, expected, simple. They got the job done in the first 2 games. They didn't really hit the bob for the last one. Denmark, woeful. They haven't got anything up front. They cannot score to save their lives, and literally hasn't saved their lives. Australia, I feel like they got away with it a little bit in terms of the game against, I think it was Tunisia that they beat. Which is, no, you know what? They deserve it. They deserve it. I feel like they beat the team that was fighting for second with them. So on that alone, they deserve to go through. Tunisia, they were pushing, and at one point it looked like they could have gone through, but Australia scored, got that goal. A victory over the world champions for Tunisia is not enough to send them through, so that's gutting for them. But this group, the only real shock is Denmark is rock bottom, pretty much.
Yeah, I have to agree there. I think we all expected France to go through. I mean, there's been shocks and upsets to the side. I think expecting France to not get out of the group, that would have been a different type. Australia, I mean, it was a bit tricky. I thought it was a bit tricky between Australia and Denmark as to who's going to go through, but Australia just were that bit better than Denmark, and Tunisia won because France are resting players, which you couldn't blame them for. Denmark, to go from being in the European Championship semi-final to finishing bottom of the group in a World Cup, yeah, disappointing, I'd say, for Denmark, but it's their own doing, really. So yeah, that's not much else to be said, really. Well done to Australia's new golden generation, it seems. And your reward is a nice, easy tie against Argentina. So yeah, well done.
Stranger things have happened.
Yes. Well, think of Saudi Arabia. That's what they're going to be thinking of. Matt, what's your thoughts on Group D?
I think this was one where we were expecting Denmark to do better, and we'd have thought Australia would have. I think we all projected Australia to finish third above Tunisia, and in the end, it's Denmark that just haven't turned up and firing. It's a real odd one. Tunisia, well, they didn't really give England a good go in the World Cup, did they? A couple of years ago, and nothing's really changed for Tunisia. They just seem to be at tournaments, and that's all they seem to be there for. They haven't done anything to progress. I don't even think they've actually qualified for the last 16 ever. So it's a bit of an odd one there. But for Australia to qualify for the first time since 2006, it's huge. It's important for them as well, because they've actually got the Women's World Cup next year alongside New Zealand. So this is almost like a taster for them of what they can expect when they host next time around, come next summer. It's going to be a very interesting game. Interesting for Australia. They're going to have to be able to, because they're going to be underdogs for their game. Actually, no, I'll tell you what, we'll move on to those knockout games later on. But fair play to Australia for getting through past the groups. And France were just France. And to be honest, I think they just, because they knew they were already qualified, they could afford to lose that game against Tunisia to begin with. So, yeah, fair play.
Right, Group E, the chaos, the chaos.
The chaos group.
Right, here we go.
We all love to see the world burn sometimes.
Top of the group, Japan.
Yep.
Scored 4, conceded 3, 6 points. Spain scored 9, mainly against Costa Rica. Conceded 3, 4 points. Then 3, sad face for some. Scored 6, conceded 5, 4 points. 6, 5, 4. Costa Rica scored 3, conceded 11, and got 3 points out of it. I mean, the key, I guess, highlights of this group, Abdi, I'd say, you've got Japan, Germany, which was a biggie. You've got Spain, Costa Rica, and you've got obviously yesterday's games. What do you think?
So the Japan-Germany one, I don't think a lot of people saw it coming in that sense, in terms of, but we had the Saudi Arabia-Argentina one after that, so another giant killing was good. Germany weren't bad in that game. They just I don't know what I honestly. It's just for the most of this tournament. I don't know what was wrong with Germany. It was that first game that sort of killed them. That's it, pretty much. Literally, that first game was the one where they weren't even that bad, but they still lost. I think Japan just. I don't know. They had something about them. They had more bite. They had more energy. They had more desire in that game. And then they go up and just lose to Costa Rica in the next game. And I was like, I thought they bottled at that point. I was like, yeah, forget Japan at this point. And then they go beat Spain. So I don't know. Japan was just feeling a bit different in that scenario. And the scenario I was really hoping for was Japan and Costa Rica to somehow go through with Spain and Germany dumped out. But hey, we couldn't
It
get
almost
that
happened.
dream. But it all for a little bit, for a little short while, it actually did happen. And then Kai Havertz, someone pissed in his cereal or something because he was angry against the world.
Have
But
you
yeah,
seen when he got man of the match? The most miserable man of the match in the world. Understandable.
no. At that point, yes. And Japan absolutely flipping dicked on Costa Rica 7-0. Bossed it. And then the Germany game, that was I really enjoyed the Spain Germany match. That was a very good, entertaining match where it was back and forth, good high tempo between two good footballing sides, but nothing could separate them, and it wasn't enough for Germany in the end. And then yesterday was just madness. Spain lose to Japan. The contentious decision of was the ball out or in? It was in, not out. It looked out, but it wasn't because the whole of the ball has to be out, not just the base of the ball. So the ball is a sphere, so the front of it can be over the line, and it was. But I will say, FIFA was very poor in terms of not showing back the actual angle to show that the ball was still in play. And then Germany beat Costa Rica, but it didn't matter. 4-2 at one point. Costa Rica leading. Japan, Costa Rica going through, but it didn't end up that way. Spain, they weren't too fussed. They're on a decent side now. I think they're which side are they on? They're on our side, aren't they?
Yes.
They've got Morocco.
Yes.
So yeah, they I feel like they've done the best thing for themselves. They're on a good side. Japan though, who had them coming top?
It's an interesting one. I mean, you look at this group and you think, to be honest, Japan going through isn't actually that surprising because at the end of the day, they did go through in the last World Cup to the last 16 where they faced Belgium and nearly knocked them out.
Yeah.
So Japan weren't really a surprise package for me. But
in a group with Spain and Germany.
With the group in the group with Spain and Germany, yes, you did kind of expect it. But let's be honest, when you saw Germans going out in the group stage last World Cup, it didn't seem as impossible in this World Cup. I wouldn't say it was a guarantee, but hey ho, it did happen. Spain, they are good. They are not a bad team. They defecated over Costa Rica pretty much. The only problem with Spain, as I'll come on to, is their tactics. Don't really change depending on who they play, which could really come to cost them. Germany, they turned up against Costa Rica, but it was too little, too late, unfortunately. So, Hansi Flick is going to be given another chance. I don't think that's curtains for him. But yes, Germans' pride is certainly bruised once more. And then you've got Costa Rica, who did their best. I mean, they did provide another extremely boring half of football against Japan. I snoozed off during that game, and I think it was extremely boring. But then you thought Japan bottled it. They haven't. So, yeah, definitely a great group and definitely had its fair share of madness on its final day.
Madness.
Yeah, this was almost at the end of the second group. It was almost like anyone could knock out anyone at the end of the day. All that needed to happen was Costa Rica beat Germany and Spain, Japan to beat Spain, and Costa Rica and Japan were through. It was very entertaining watching both these games, if I'm honest. and the fact that I'm actually going to highlight this now, and the fact that Spain and Germany have played each other in the Nations League perhaps has made it even more of a unnecessary
Got
because
there,
Too
Eddie.
late for these. Too late for words like that, mate.
but this is the thing though, is that imagine you just finished the Nations League, you played Spain and Spain have just played Germany twice, and then they've got to do it again for a World Cup. It just doesn't make sense. What they need to do is if they do these sorts of things, they need to make sure that they're not in the same groups again, because England have had the
Don't
same situation.
overcomplicate this draw.
No,
They listen. It's a draw. If they draw them again, they draw them again. There's
Yeah,
not much you can do
let's not
about it.
thing, though, is
overcomplicate it,
that
shall we?
England ended up playing Croatia at the World Cup, and then we ended up playing Croatia
At the Euros and in the Nations League, we
Yeah,
played Croatia so many times, mate.
it's an endless
It's just one
cycle.
of those things.
It's an endless
And
cycle
San Marino.
that keeps on happening. So I'm expecting England to end up playing. If we get past Senegal, we'll probably, if it's the Netherlands, well, we might end up playing the
France.
Netherlands.
We're on
the next
It'll be
France.
week.
France or
No, we're on
Poland.
France.
Or France. That will be the next team that we'll get. It's just going to be an endless cycle, and it becomes too predictable. And these are the sorts of results that's going to cause that for a World Cup. But honestly, fair play to Japan. What people were, because people was too busy concentrating on, well, ITV were, because of Graham Souness, who wouldn't let it go, because of the ball and everything like that, whether or not it was in or out. Instead of saying well done to Japan for actually coming back into the match because they were 1-0 down, they were too. This is one of the reasons why they're through. Japan have got a very exciting squad. They know how to play football. They've been playing football for a very long time, and this group that they've got is very young, and they're learning to grow and develop as a team together. A lot of them are still very young and raw, and fair play to Japan for topping a group that had Germany and Spain. Spain, I think, will probably perhaps be a bit happier because they're on the other side of the draw, if I'm honest.
Well, it will be interesting. We're not far away from previewing the last 16. Group F. Here we go.
Hey, boy.
Morocco scored
The
4.
boys.
Scored 4, conceded 1, 7 points. Croatia scored 4, conceded 1, 5 points. Number 2 ranked team in the world, Belgium, scored 1, conceded 2.4. And then you've got Canada, I mean, debut in the World Cup.
Not the second
Return.
Scored 2. Oh, yeah, that is actually a return for quite a while. Scored 2, conceded 7 on 0 points. Abdi.
Nil point. Let's get Canada out of the way, shall we? I love their energy. I love the way they were playing football. I love the way they were going through it. They deserve so much more than they got in the first game against Belgium. But ultimately, did they draw with who did it? No, they lost all their games, didn't they? Canada.
Yeah,
Yes.
they came close.
Yeah. The Croatian Morocco game, they got picked apart in those 2 games. The Belgium game, yeah, they were unlucky in that game, but they were excited. They were going for it. They weren't sitting back. They weren't defensive. They just wanted to attack, and that's what they were trying to do. And unfortunately, sometimes you just get picked apart, and they got absolutely mauled by Croatia. Was it 4-1?
Yes, it
that
was.
game. After leading, and then they just got torn apart. And then the Morocco game, again picked apart, and they're already out after that game anyway. So it's a good win for Morocco to make them top. Let's talk about Morocco then. I've been enjoying what I've been seeing from them. Happy that they've gone through and top of their group as well. He's by far the best team in that group. Belgium. Oh, Belgium, so stinky, so poor, so disgusting. get in the bin. If we could eliminate 3 teams, I'd eliminate Croatia as well because the only game that I saw much of them was the the Canada game where they tore them apart, but the Morocco game and the Belgium game, they weren't. They didn't lose, but they just. I don't know. They just felt negative to me. They felt old, and hopefully they get knocked out very swiftly. But yeah, Belgium, poor, poor, poor. Please don't return. This is the end of their so-called golden generation. They need a new manager. Roberto Martinez has gone anyway. He stepped down.
It wasn't due to
So
the World Cup loss.
They just need a new manager, mate.
Yeah.
They've been shockingly bad for years, and it's just been mishandled. And this is what it's cost them. So, bye-bye. Morocco, hopefully you can beat Spain and cause an upset. I want to see you go far. Come on, Morocco.
Team Morocco for Abdi. Let's look at this group. Belgium-Canada game. I mean, Alphonso Davies was probably still kicking himself for missing that penalty. Was it saved? Was that saved or was it saved or missed?
I think so.
Still, that was probably a big miss. They probably regretted.
Belgium, they should have like 2 penalties in that game.
Belgium did not look convincing in that game alone. I kind of thought they cancel the planes from Belgium to Qatar. So yeah, there was that one. There was the game against Morocco, which dismantled, and Canada's fate sealed in the Croatia game. Word on Belgium's golden generation. I've said this in the WhatsApp group, and I will say it here. To me, Belgium's golden generation did not have chance in this World Cup. I did not give them chances in this World Cup. To me, Belgium's one and big chance to do anything on the international stage was the 2018 World Cup in Russia. They came third. That was their time. They could have gone to the final and done something, but unfortunately, it wasn't meant to be. And I think after that, Martinez should have personally stepped down because he wasn't going to take them any further. That was the opportunity they've had, and they were never going to go any further than that. So that's it for Belgium, I think. Good luck to them. Kevin De Bruyne, you're rubbish for country, it seems. Go back to playing for club. You're at least better there. Morocco, brilliant, fantastic. Very happy for them because in the group stage in 2018, they did quite well. They just didn't do well enough towards the end, but they tried their best. So it's good to see them through to the last 16. Croatia, I wish you the best of luck. You've done okay, but let's be honest. You humiliated Canada, and that's about it, really. You've not done much else than that. You played another boring, one of the most boring 0-0s of the tournament. I don't really see you going that far. Matt?
Again, fair play to Morocco for actually topping this group. When we did the preview, we probably said Croatia and Belgium, but to be honest, I didn't think Croatia were going to go through. Belgium, with everything that's gone on and everything, the fact that they managed 4 points is perhaps their miracle. Canada were there because they weren't just there to make up the numbers. They were there to try and bring exciting football. They did. It's experience for them. I was speaking to you, Hubert, just before we went live, and I was saying that this Canada team has the potential. I think the only one that's going to be not there is Don Hutchinson because he's in his 40s now and he's just done his 100th cap and he's captain. So he's the only one that's not going to be there for the next World Cup. That Canada team has potential. We've seen it. Alphonso Davies with Canada's first ever goal in the men's World Cup. Let's just express that because the women do a fantastic job. As well, and to get a second as well in your second World Cup is just as important. All that experience will help you in the long run. Bit similar to the US. See how far you can go. Okay, you went out of the group stage. Now you know you've got the experience. Hopefully you can go a bit further next time. Get into that knockout stages. I'm getting fed up of talking about Croatia because every time I hear any of their players, you start getting itchy because every time you got Modric, you got Pulisic, you got
That's
Subasa.
Serbia, bro. That's Serbia as well.
Serbia, yeah, it's just
Serbia's probably worse. It's like
Yes.
all of them.
on the commentators say that. All of a sudden, I'm just scratching my arm because I've all of a sudden just got an itch. But I just Croatia just bore me, and they just bore me. They've been boring forever, actually. I mean, the fact that they got to a semi-final, they shouldn't have even got to the semi-finals, to be honest, in 2018. And I think, to be honest, they'll be one of the first ones that'll be not one of the first ones. I think it will be. I think they'll probably concede in the first 30 minutes, and that'll be that. They'll be knocked out. It'll be with Morocco. Just wish them all the best because they're one of the only African teams left in the competition.
Senegal.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Right, Group G. Let's have a look.
Gee, just finished up right before we came on.
Literally just, yes. So Brazil scored 3, conceded 1, 6 points. Switzerland scored 4, conceded 3, 6 points. Cameroon scored 4, conceded 4, 4 points, 4. And Serbia scored 5, conceded 8, 1 point at the overtime.
Serbia came to play. You know, they were involved in goal fest, pretty much. The 3-3 of Cameroon and the 3-2 of Switzerland just now. Obviously, the Brazil game was the Brazil game, but those two games were fun to watch. It was enjoyable, but ultimately it wasn't enough. Cameroon, they only just beat Brazil now. They beat them their second strings, which is still a good side, but unfortunately still not enough for them. And then Switzerland, they done the business in the first game against Cameroon, got the win, and then afterwards, obviously come up against Brazil. It's going to be tough, so they couldn't do that. And got the win tonight in a very thrilling contest, very entertaining. Could have even topped the group if things kept going the way they were going. And then Brazil, they've been a bit mixed for me. They haven't really, I wouldn't say they haven't put down a statement and laid the marker down and really emphasized their authority, really. They've done what they had to do. They got the job done against Serbia. 2 good goals by Richarlison. But I feel like they haven't been going for it a bit as much as they should be. I felt like they've been a bit defensive, a little negative. I don't know. They're definitely hard to beat in terms of they only conceded 1, and that was tonight. And their first shot on target, they only conceded in that game as well. But yeah, I want to see a bit more from Brazil. Don't get me wrong; there's probably still the favourites, and they have all the capabilities of winning the World Cup this year. But I don't know. I don't know. There's something off. But yeah, Switzerland, fair play to them. This is sort of similar to what I would have had it at the start, predicted for them, runners up. Cameroon, Serbia, flip it however you want it. Doesn't really matter. They're both going home at the end of the day. But yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on Brazil. From this group, everyone's going to say, "Oh, excited about Brazil." Brazil this, Brazil that, and I have to say, watching them in the group stage, I mean, then they weren't in the most difficult group in the world, so they didn't technically have to show up as such. As long as they qualify, it's fine. But I have to say, for me, I'm not blown away by Brazil at all. I'm not excited by watching them. And they've got Neymar, who's the most egotistical player you can find, or certainly one of them. It's quite frankly off-putting. So they've not blown me away. They need to do a lot better. They'll have to do a lot better at the latter stages if they are to win their 6th World Cup, and they can win a World Cup. They can, because it's not in Europe this time, so they are allowed to win it. Switzerland, they've done
not their home nation.
Switzerland, they've done what they had to do. Serbia, they gave it go, try their best. They've produced thrillers, but that's about it. And Cameroon, too little, too late. The win against Brazil was good, but wasn't good enough to give them what they needed, really. So, yeah, that's not much that can be said really about this group, in all honesty. Apart from the 2 goals from Richarlison against Serbia, especially the second one, stunner. I hate complimenting him, but that was a beauty. So there you go, Matt.
Well, you've talked about Brazil not really turning up and maybe not getting out of that maybe second gear. They've just been staying consistently in that second gear. Well, they're through. They've done what they needed to. They perhaps got, as I mentioned earlier, perhaps got the easier path to at least to the semi-finals. They've got the capacity to do that. Not a problem. Switzerland, who, funny enough, I ended up getting in the sweepstake. That was quite funny actually. But the fact that every time they end up playing Serbia, it ends up either in a brawl or they end up doing some sort of celebration and get fined for it or something. But it's mad. But it's always nice to see Switzerland qualify, because it doesn't seem to be a World Cup where Switzerland don't get out of the group at the very least. And this time it was a bit unfortunate that Cameroon weren't able to get out. And I think they'll probably look at that draw against Serbia. Could they have maybe actually? Oh no, I'm thinking of the wrong group. I was thinking about the France. France was France who Lloris threw the ball down. No, it was Martinez, wasn't it, for Argentina? Threw the ball down and they nearly won. The African teams nearly scored in an open goal. But Cameroon, I think they'll just see this as progress for now. To get 4 points in the World Cup, usually sometimes that gets you through. Sometimes it's not. It's not enough, and this time it wasn't enough. But fair play. I think you talked about Serbia coming to play, but they've ended at the bottom of the group with only 1 point, and Vlasovic and Mitrovic really to the rescue for Serbia.
Pretty much.
I will say one thing: the Cameroon, the game when Vincent Abubakar scored, he he was already booked, and when he scored, he celebrated by taking his shirt off, and he got a second booking and got sent off, which is probably the funniest and dumbest thing to get sent off for, especially because they were winning, but they weren't going through. If they were going through, I'd understand it a little bit more, but at that point, I was like, oh no. Maybe he forgot, maybe he didn't. I don't know, but this is the first World Cup red card for someone who scored in a game since Zinedine Zidane in 2006 in that final against Italy.
Before I do forget as well, Brazil have actually qualified 11. This is the 11th time they've actually qualified in a row, top of their group.
Whoa. Talk about consistency.
Yeah. Right, we move on to the final group. Before we do the last 16, here we go. Group H. Portugal, 6 goals scored, 4 conceded, 6 points. South Korea, goals scored, 4. It's another 4-4. Uruguay in third, scored 2, conceded 2, 4 points. Ghana scored 5, conceded 7, 3 points. Abdi?
Ghana, heartbreaking. I wanted them to get revenge on Uruguay and do what they had to do and get the win, but ultimately they couldn't. Start for the Portugal game, Portugal raced ahead 3-1, and Ghana didn't give up in that game. 3-2, they pushed them all the way to the end, but couldn't finish it off. And then afterwards they go 3-2 against South Korea and beat them. So that was the first time we see back-to-back 3-2s in a while. So they were entertaining to watch. And then the Uruguay game, the build-up, the hype, the revenge from 12 years ago, fell apart. They got a penalty in in like the 20th minute or something, and it was probably one of the worst penalties I've seen in a very long time. Andre Ayew, what were you thinking?
What
And
exactly
then
I actually missed the game because I was working.
sorry.
What actually happened? I actually missed the game.
So Ghana had a penalty, and Andre Ayew was he basically just drove it low straight at Roche. Roche is the keeper, the Uruguay keeper. He saved. It was a very easy save for the keeper. And then Uruguay went on to score two pretty much, and that was about it. And then the permutations, because permutation palaver around here. South Korea were beating South Portugal because Portugal rotated their side 2-1. Well, Portugal scored first, and then South Korea scored another, and then another again, and yeah, they went through on goals scored, um, and the last like 10 minutes of the Uruguay Ghana match, Uruguay knew that they were going out on goals scored if they hadn't scored another goal. So they were pushing and pushing and pushing, and it was just the drama, the emotion. You love to see it. And then the Ghana fans, they were actually singing Korea, Korea, and actually wanting Korea to go through because they knew they were going home at this point. There wasn't too much for them that they could do, but they wanted to take Uruguay with them, and they did. And Uruguay go home on because of goals scored out of everything, because everything else is level, but South Korea scored more goals. And that was the detriment to Uruguay because Uruguay came into this tournament in the first game with South Korea 0-0. I was expecting a lot more from them. And then the second game, Portugal, was it a win or a draw? I think they lost to Portugal. But yeah, Portugal, not much to say on them. Standard, you thought they were going to come out top. Bruno Fernandes, my guy, respect, I love it. Loving what I'm seeing from South Korea in terms of their performances. They've been a joy to watch in terms of their energy, their desire, their hunger. Similar to Japan in terms of their fitness, their organization, and the way they go after it. Yeah, my sweepstake team is going through, so I'm happy about that.
Yes, indeed. Well, I have to say Portugal, not really a surprise in that group. You kind of expected it. Sadly, Ronaldo carries on, but hey ho. And the rest of that group was pretty much chaos. I mean, Uruguay and South Korea produced that boring 0-0 at first. And then obviously there was the thriller between South Korea and Ghana. I wanted Ghana to produce an upset and send Uruguay packing. Uruguay still went packing, just not the way I wanted to, but still, it's pretty good. So yes, Portugal and South Korea. South Korea unexpected, but through to the next stage. So yeah, not much really to say that hasn't been said already, apart from Luis Suarez. Have it,
Crying.
Matt.
Yes. It's just one of those things, isn't it, where you look at when some of these teams are drawn and there is history there. It's almost a lot of people hype it up and hype it up and hype it up. It's especially in the media, especially when it's England versus Germany, for example, and or England versus France or things like that. They hype it up, and that game, although it did produce more drama, perhaps not as much dramatic as it was 12 years ago, but for the fact that Ghana missed out on a chance to go through tonight, it's a bit of a shame, really, because that would have been the first time that three African nations would have gone through in a World Cup. But they just couldn't do it, and it's a bit of a shame because honestly, Korea have taken advantage of that by beating Portugal, even though Portugal were already qualified. It again, talking about consistency, maybe Portugal just sort of were able to play a second gear and not get a third, not without needing to play in that third gear. But you still need to be going for these sorts of games. You can't afford to lose any points, and there wasn't going to be a scenario where they would have lost, but had they drawn one of their opening games because it was fine margins, then they could have quite easily gone out tonight.
Mm.
But
Yep,
fair play to Korea. That's all I'll say about
fair
that.
play. Definitely, they've done
I want to
what they.
say one quick thing. I know Statman Matt loves his stats.
To be fair,
His
Matt, you've been popping up with stats. You were like Statman
here's
David.
one. Here's one for you. Here's one for you. This is the first time that the group stage has concluded, and no team has had the maximum 9 points.
Yeah, I was
First
just
time.
thinking that.
That's quite
First
good.
time. I'm surprised that didn't happen. I was seeing it. I was like, okay, surely France are going to get it. Nope.
I was gonna say a
All
lot of
right.
people
Surely
expected you.
Spain are going to
Yeah.
get it. No. Surely Portugal can get it. No. Surely Germany, Brazil are going to get it. Nope. It was like, every
No
time I
one
was
got
like,
it.
surely, no one got it. No one got it.
That's
7 points is the highest.
Yes, that's quite a good stat actually, because it is very surprising. It shows that even the big teams had stumbles.
Maybe
Okay,
it
then.
also shows how open this World Cup might end up being.
Well, we're about to predict the next stage, people. So
Let's go.
let's go, starting with tomorrow's fixtures. So let's go for the first game tomorrow, 3:00.
Yep.
Netherlands versus USA. Abdi. Who we picking?
I can see USA causing an upset. But I do think Netherlands had that footballing IQ a bit more. So I'm gonna. Do I go with the upset? I'll go with. I'll flip it. I'll go with USA. Go on.
USA for Abdi. Matt, who are you going with?
Sorry, which team's this?
USA Netherlands.
USA Netherlands. I think it's going to be. You know what? I could almost see it being one of those ones that ends up being the first time it goes to extra time penalties.
Straight away.
I know it sounds bad, but actually, if you think about it, by the time it gets to penalties, the next game will be on. So
no,
there's enough. There's enough time.
There's enough time.
What is it? Oh, I'm bad at maths. That's my excuse. No. So.
It'll be close though. It'll be kind of time.
Yeah, just a bit.
Yeah, I think I'm going to back the Orange boys and go Netherlands.
Yeah, I probably think they'll do it. But
I'm gonna say Netherlands just because I'd like to see
USA knock Netherlands out, so then after the Gakpo price can stop going up even further.
So yes, and I'm going for the Netherlands for this one. Next, Argentina versus Australia. Abdi.
Argentina, but if Licha is not playing, then Australia all the way. Let's go.
Yeah, Matt.
I think this has a huge impact. Australia know what they need to do. They've been shown how to play against Argentina, and I think it'll be a case of can actually, you know what? I'm going to call him out. Can Messi score his first ever knockout goal?
Yeah, I think he will.
And
I think he will.
That might be the difference. If Messi can get going in the knockout stages, then that will be the key. If Messi doesn't score, then someone else is going to step up, and I just have a feeling that they're going to choke. But I'll go for Argentina because they're going to be favourites. I don't think Australia. If Australia do manage to win, it'll be like 1-0 in the last minute of extra time or something like that, in like the 110th minute or something like that.
Unfortunately, with Australia, unless they go the 10-0-0 formation and pretty much all 11 players cover Messi, I think I struggle to see. Unfortunately, it hurts me to say this because I would rather midget Messi not go far. I see Argentina winning that one, I'm afraid. So, yeah, there's that one. Next, right, Sunday, 3:00, France versus Poland. I mean, Abdi.
It's got to be France. I'm sorry about that, but yeah, it's got to be France. Reigning world champions aren't going out at this point.
No. Matt.
Yeah, again, this Poland side, they just look. They don't look great, and because they don't look great, they're not going to be ready for the French attack. And although France have been seen a bit leaky, I don't think Lewandowski is going to be able to add to his goal tally. So I think France are going to win it.
I agree. I think that French team, regardless of leaky defenses, I think Poland have a chance of scoring a goal. But that French attack is going to cut through Poland's defense like knife through butter. That Polish defense is a nightmare. That Polish defense is awful.
Before I forget, sorry, Hubert, I believe that Wojciech Szczesny was the first goalkeeper to save a penalty since 1982 as well, or something like that. It's a really odd stat.
Yes,
For
1974,
Poland?
wasn't it?
24. There we go.
Is that for Poland?
Yes.
Yeah, for Poland.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think I think the goalkeeper's the only player that's probably gonna prevent the game from being a 7-0 thrashing of some description. But that French team's going to wipe the floor with Poland. I'm afraid to say you're not gonna have I'm not seeing an upset for the world champions. Not in that game, I'm afraid. Next, of course, it's the biggie, Abdi. England versus Senegal.
Boys, Senegal could cause us a problem. I think it'll be a very physical game, but I do think we have the attacking prowess to get through that game, and I'm gonna be backing the boys, so I'm saying England.
Matt?
I think this is the thing, isn't it? I've got a real. This was before I was even born, so just to tell me the sort of age. This has a real Italian 90 sort of vibe. We end up playing a African team in the in the knockouts. Then we end up playing a European team in the quarterfinals, and then it all goes to pot. So I think Senegal are going to give us a hell of a game, to be honest. But I think England will go through just.
I'm going to pick England for this one, but I think what I will say is a lot of people need to be careful when talking about Senegal. I think a lot
it's not going to be an easy game. It's one of those ones.
A lot of fans underestimate Senegal, and I think that what people need to keep in mind is that they are
a lot of hidden gems in that squad as well.
Reigning champions of Africa.
They are AFCON champions now. They didn't get it by accident. Now, sure, that was with Mane at the front, but they've proven that without him they can still deliver. So England will win it, but be very careful before anyone says that will be an easy fixture. Next, moving on to Monday's games. And we were saying, and they're probably not going to go that far. Japan, Croatia, Abdi.
Let's go, Japan. I'm with the Japanese boys. The rising sun. Let's go. The white and red attack.
Matt.
Japan. I would love it if Asano goes in and scores a hat trick in the second half or something like that. It will be mad.
Run those old men ragged.
I'm going for Japan. I think Croatia were lucky to get through the group stage. Japan, let's go. Then we've got South Korea, Brazil, Abdi.
I want a shock. I really want a shock. I want South Korea to go through, but that's my sweepstakes team, and I feel like my sweepstakes team is going to go out on Monday night. Brazil, unfortunately.
Not
even going to back your sweepstakes.
I'm backing them, but I'm not confident.
Matt.
I think Brazil will be confident that they're going to get a result, but the fact that Korea got this spot, considering how bad they performed in the group, I just see Brazil are going to be better.
Yeah, it's one of these things where I don't want Argentina, Portugal, or Brazil to win, but unfortunately, it's hard to see past them at the moment. I think South Korea just about scraped through. It has to be said. So, in all honesty, I think Brazil will be a tough one for them. Now, I'm not saying South Korea will roll over, sure, but I think it's going to be a tough one. I can see Brazil going through, but if a shock happens, it will be probably amazing. Next, Tuesday fixtures, Morocco, Spain, Abdi.
If there's to be a shock in this round 16, I feel like this is the game most likely of it being. Could we call it a shock? kind of, but kind of not. I
Yes,
don't know. But
kind of.
the way Morocco performed in their group, I feel like Morocco could have a very good chance of going through to the quarterfinals. I've already gone for the risky play of USA earlier. Should I go for a risky play again? I don't know.
I mean, we're not going to kill you if you get it wrong.
Yeah,
So.
you know what? I'm backing the boys of Morocco. Let's go.
Right, Matt.
To be honest, it depends what Spain turn up. Is it going to be the Spain that has Morata firing on all cylinders, or is
It'll
it
be
going
the
to
same
be
Spain as you've seen. They don't change tactics.
Pass,
you
pass, pass.
you know what
That's
I
all they're
mean, though,
doing.
you've now got Gary Neville turning around saying Spain don't have a striker and Morata pops up. It's a case of can they get firing on all cylinders against Morocco, and I think Morocco have proven a lot of people wrong. And this one, although it seems quite simple that on paper you'd have Spain to win, I have a feeling it's going to end up being extra time. But I think Spain might nick it. I think it's going to be like a 1-0 game, if I'm honest.
1-0, 2-1. I've got the thing is, I'd love Morocco to go through. It'd be brilliant. I would like that. I mean, they've got a Chelsea boy in there. It would be nice. But I do have a soft spot for the Spaniards. I do have a soft spot for the country. So for me, I will pick Spain to just about edge it over Morocco. As annoying as it would be, because I do like Morocco. I do like the look of that team. I'd like to see the Spaniards go through that one. One more game. Portugal, Switzerland, Abdi.
Portugal. Bruno Fernandes is Portugal.
Matt?
My sweepstake team versus Portugal. Well, based on tonight's performance and everything, Portugal have only got a couple of options up top, and that's where they rely on their goals. They didn't really seem to cause any threats tonight. So, but Switzerland are very bad defensively, although even with the players that they have up top. So, unfortunately, as much as I'd love to say Switzerland, I think Portugal will go through.
Yeah, it's at the moment, I don't see the big shocks for the big teams. Not in this stage, maybe in the quarterfinals, but in this stage, unfortunately, Cristiano Ronaldo is going to have to go through to the quarterfinals.
Well, in the quarterfinals, if you're looking at it from the favourite standpoint, Netherlands, Argentina, Japan, Brazil, maybe Croatia, Brazil, depending on how people feel. France, England, and Spain and Portugal. So some very tasty ties within that.
Oh yes, it would.
If it goes in the quarterfinals, if those teams progress, because obviously there's two teams. Yeah. There's two teams in there, so not writing anyone off.
So yeah, it will be
my ideal scenario. My ideal scenario would be USA win, Australia win, Japan win, South Korea win, Poland win, England win, Morocco win, and Switzerland win.
Now that would be amazing. And I think if anyone wants to put a kind of accumulator on all this and actually wins it, I think then you might get banned.
If that happens, just call me Mystic Abs. Come find me.
Oh yeah, I mean, whoever put a bet on that and wins might get banned from betting because the bookies will have to pay out probably the entire earnings for this. There we go. That is the last 16 preview. We will be back after the last 16 stage to pick it all apart. And
it won't be as long this time.
It won't be as long, or will it? It just all depends what happens.
Yeah.
So let's go through the Twitter handles, the usual. Abdi, where are you on Twitter?
You can find me on the Twitter machine at aabdullahi26, at aabdullahi26.
Matt?
So mine is in the bubble below, Matt LR28.
And you can find me on Twitter, not that I post anything, at Subsonics UK, SUBSONIX UK on occasional advertising. But other than that, don't really post. But you can find us on at Golden Goal TV. Plenty of World Cup tweeting there, so keep an eye on
a
that.
A lot.
Updates.
I've been a busy boy.
Good man, good man. Well, I've been doing the Facebook, you've been doing the Twitter. It's all happening. And of course, we have the Facebook group if you want to join. That's very busy right now with a few bits and pieces. And of course, we have the WhatsApp group and this channel. So like, comment, share, and subscribe. Click that bell to receive notifications. And come and join us on the next show. So yes, thank you all for watching and staying up with us. We will see you after the last 16.
Wiedersehen.